Welcome to unit number 4, where we're going to be focusing on Central America and the Caribbean. We're going to start our learning on the geography of both places and hopefully give you an overview. Before we even start, I think the biggest difference between this unit is we are talking about multiple countries and more of a region. If you think about our other units so far, Canada was a country, Mexico a country. Now we're talking about a region of the world. So there's multiple countries we're going to get into. And multiple areas that make up this region. As always, here are your vocab words that you need to make sure you know. As you've seen in our snapshot assessments, these are important words to know and be able to use in class. So our words to start here are isthmus, hurricane, biodiversity, tourism, and deforestation. Take a minute and jot those down, and if you need to, hit pause. So here are the basics, and we got Google Earth pulled up over here just so you can see the area that we are talking about. Here's our old friend Mexico that we've just finished studying, and the area we are talking about is right here. I'm making a circle right around it. That is Central America and the Caribbean. Central America obviously connects North America to South America. If you were to say what continent is it on, it actually is on North America, even though it connects to South. It is a region, not a country. And Central America itself is right here. It's made up of 7 different countries: Belize, Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, and Panama. The Caribbean region is made up of 28 island nations and at least over 7,000 islands. Some are so small, obviously you can barely even see a lot of them on here. But what's important that we know is there's 28 island nations. I didn't say countries, it's a little bit more confusing. We'll get there at some point. And the largest islands are Cuba, Jamaica, and Hispaniola. This map just breaks it down. So here's your Central American countries and where they are. And yes, you will need to know this. So there's a lot of games you can start practicing to learn where these places are: Belize, Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, and Panama. Unfortunately, I'm not going to list every single Caribbean island, but you can see here's Central America, here's where I was just showing you, and now here is the Caribbean islands. Okay, the Greater Antilles is a name for the larger islands, and then the Lesser Antilles are names for all these smaller islands, and you can see there's plenty of them. So let's talk about some physical features, and we did separate them here because Central America and the Caribbean islands, although many similarities, they also have some major differences. Central America, as we know, is part of the southern part of North America. It includes the countries of Central America. It's an isthmus, and I know that was a word that we said before, but I think it's important to go over it again, which means it's a narrow strip of land that connects two larger land areas. There is no place in Central America that is wider than 125 miles. And obviously on one side of Central America, we have the Pacific Ocean, and on the other side, the Atlantic, which is very unique, or the Caribbean Sea. There's a chain of mountains and volcanoes that divides the Caribbean and the Pacific coastal plains, and there's no good water travel, so there's no good rivers to kind of build travel up and down. So it is hard to get from country to country in Central America. So if you're planning a trip to go travel all of Central America, it's very difficult to do. Shifting to the Caribbean islands, obviously they're across from Central America and the Caribbean Sea. And some of the words, and one of the big words is archipelago, which means it's a large group of islands, that we should know that word. Like we said before, the Greater Antilles is Cuba, Jamaica, Hispaniola, and Puerto Rico, the bigger islands. And the Lesser Antilles is the smaller islands, featuring the Virgin Islands, Trinidad and Tobago, plus many, many more. The Bahamas itself is made up of 700 islands, just so you know. You may be aware of a few of them, but it actually is made up of 700 islands. Many islands nobody lives on, or you can't live on them. They may not be big enough to live. Most of these islands were formed from the tops of underwater mountains or volcanoes and coral reefs being pushed up from tectonic plates, which makes it a very interesting area. Sticking with the physical features, the mountain range Sierra Madre, which we know starts in Mexico, actually extends through the countries of Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras in Central America. the Cordillera Central Mountain Range divides Panama. So we know there's some big mountains, and you can see them pictured below here. There are some big mountains that do make up big parts of the region. Also, the movement of plates, and you'll learn more about this in science eventually, under the Earth's surface makes the region very unstable. This movement leads to two major things. Active volcanoes, and it says there's over 80 active volcanoes, and also earthquakes. Earthquakes are very common in the region, and that they can actually lead to mudslides, which can be devastating for some of these small countries and capitals. The city of San Salvador in El Salvador has been destroyed by these earthquakes and rebuilt many times, and you can just see a picture of an earthquake in San Salvador down here. So it's unstable. Is I think the big thing we need to know is a lot of the land is unstable, especially in Central America. The climate, little change from day to night, summer to winter. It's pretty much the same. The change in season is marked by the change in rainfall, not temperature. The winters are dry and the summers are wet. But most of the region is both wet and warm all the time. And that's why we know a lot of people go to travel to Central America and the Caribbean, because the weather is so favorable and you could basically travel there anytime. Why is it warm? Its relative location to the equator helps it stay warm. And obviously, why is it wet? Its relative location to both oceans help continue to bring moisture. So we said there's earthquakes, hurricanes, earthquakes, volcanoes, but we also have this big weather issue to deal with, and it's hurricanes, and they are very common to this area. On average, Honduras is hit with 8 hurricanes a year. So hurricanes, what are they? We know they're huge storms. They can bring several inches of rain an hour. Several inches of rain with 150 mile per hour or more winds. Devastating storms. 3 of the worst, which we'll learn more about, is Hurricane Mitch in 1998, which hit Honduras, Hurricane Ike in 2008, which hit Cuba, and Hurricane Ivan in 2005 that hit Barbados, costing billions and billions of dollars. Some of the things still not replaced today. And a couple of pictures here. This is obviously a hurricane from looking at it from space, and then down here is some of the effects that we can see from hurricanes. So that's another thing, and that is one thing that can affect travel to the area. And there's certain times of the year, we know the summertime here leading into the fall is one of the big hurricane seasons down there. So natural resources. There are some, but we have to also remember these are small countries in a small region. There's not a lot of land. With not a lot of land, not a lot of natural resources. But here are what they do have. They have rich soil. They have few minerals, and biggest natural resource is they have these things right here. Beautiful beaches. You're saying natural resource, and it is, and I'll tell you why in a second. The land and the climate are its natural resource because it attracts people. Their number one way of money and bringing in money using their surroundings is tourism, and we'll learn more about that. But that's their number one deal. People go there because it's beautiful. Also, their soil is pretty good, and a lot of it is because of the volcanic ash, which actually becomes very good soil. The crops they grow include coffee, bananas, sugarcane, and cotton. Again, we know the climate's pretty good to grow, and if you get a decent amount of rainfall. They export timber from the rainforests, which can be controversial, and especially as you go farther south and into South America. Deforestation is something we'll talk about. Should we be cutting down some of these rainforests to export to make money, or should they be preserved is a big question many people ask. There's very few mineral and energy resources in Central America. So there's our synopsis of the geography. As you can see, a very, very interesting place in the world, and we'll be learning all about it this next few weeks. So make sure you took good notes, and go back and watch if you need to. We will be talking about the history of Central America next.